Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Sunday, July 23rd, 2023, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Now Mind You podcast. This is episode 75, Combat. I'm TJ,
I'm Bryce.
and Matt is not with us today. He had to attend to some personal matters. We understand, we support him. That is our boy, that is our brother. He will be
Yep.
back as soon as he can, y'all.
Yep.
With that, we will be covering UFC Fight Night that took place last night in the UK. So it was an early card, 2 Central, which means we could get some sleep, which is always nice, right? But UFC Fight Night, Aspinall versus Tybura, right? So on this card, we had at featherweight Murphy versus, for the main card, we had Murphy versus Kulabao. Then we had Herbert versus Yam at lightweight. We had Craig versus Muniz at middleweight. We had Wood versus Feely at featherweight. We had for co-main event at women's flyweight, McCann versus Stoliarenko. Then at heavyweight, we had for our main event, Aspinall versus Tybura. With that being said, if you don't mind, Bryce, I can kick us off with Murphy versus Kulabao. So on the one hand, we had Lerone the Miracle Murphy versus Josh Kulabao at featherweight. This is what I'm going to say, and it's also in my notes. I might say this twice, but just look up Lerone Murphy's life story, and you will understand why his nickname is the Miracle. I don't want to go into too much detail because you could talk about this at length, but the man's story is insane, right? Then for Josh Kulibao, training out of Sydney, and actually I believe a part of Volkanovski's team. I was rooting for him, but then Megan O'Leary put the death flags on him. What did she say about Josh Kulibao? She mentioned that he had a new addition to his family on the way, and that he was fighting for his family. She might as well have killed him on the spot. Let me tell you too. And here's the thing, it did I know it didn't look like that out the gate if you looked at the first round, because Kulibao's style is very unorthodox. A lot of stance switches, a lot of hands dropping, but we know that in MMA, someone dropping their hands isn't always an indicator that they don't know how to keep their hands up. It's them also trying to bait you to hit them, right? Especially when you hit that certain level where it's like, all right, we're both equally good. So now another thing's got to be the deciding factor in allowing us to hit each other. So he's doing really well, kind of overwhelming Lerone Murphy in the first round. I will say toward the tail end of the round, though, Lerone Murphy was trying to find some combinations. But then round 2 and 3, Lerone just leaned forward with his controller. The amount of times he was able to get to Kulibao's back, for instance, that was essentially all of round 2, almost finished him with the rear naked choke. The amount of times he was able to rock Kulibao on the feet, the amount of damage he dealt, it ended up being a unanimous decision win for the Manchester native. And again, I will say this for your benefit. Do yourself a favor, look up Lerone Murphy's story. That is it. I'm gonna pass it over to Bryce.
I just want to say to that I looked up the story and holy shit, like
Yeah. Miracle for a reason, right?
miracle for a reason. Also, I'm not going to the UK anytime soon. Like I've already
But y'all got it
explained
like that.
because
Yeah.
because like I said it before, you gotta try to do what they did to the dude, and then it still didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work. I have the picture. I can't. I'm not going. Okay, let's go over the fight. So, um, you know, it was just a good showing by Murphy. He
Yeah.
outclassed him everywhere. He had him on the ground pretty much. I want to say the second and the third rounds, and
Yeah.
uh, Joshua was just trying to survive, just fighting for his life. It was a good show. Like the last part of him just on his knees, just looking out into the space. It's just like, yeah, you went through some things, man.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it was solid. It was a solid showing in Murphy's part. I am scared of that man now. I just want that to be known. Um, just yeah, good fight, good fight on Murphy's part.
Yeah.
Uh, do you want to get into the next part?
Go ahead, sir. It's all you.
So it's Jai Herbert versus Fares Ziam. Jai Herbert is coming off of a draw. Oh my goodness, this name against Ludovic Klein at UFC 286.
Not bad, Bryce.
Fares Ziam is coming off of. It looks like this would be his debut in the UFC.
Yeah, I think he was fighting at a French promotion for a little bit.
It looks like he had a win against Michael Figlak at UFC Fight Night Gain versus Tuivasa.
Oh, got you,
He
got you,
won
got
by
you.
decision. This fight was pretty interesting. I want to say that Jai Herbert had Leon Edwards in his corner.
It
The
sounded
UFC.
like it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Head position, head position. That shit was hilarious. But it was an even fight for the pretty much part.
They were the exact same fighter, bro.
Yeah, the exact same fighter getting just trying to get in those 1-2s. It looked like that a lot of it came down to pretty much Fares just outpaced Jai with the strikes. It
Yeah.
looks like total strikes, Jai had 58 out of 150. Fares had 96 out of 153. Significant strikes, Jai had 49 out of 134. Fares 61 out of 113. And of
Mm.
course, Fares got a takedown in. During the fights, it looked like some of it really came down to just looked like they were fighting just for top position in the cage a lot of the times. And I feel like um, though that was maybe Herbert's strategy, that wasn't the way to go about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess maybe that was, but just yeah, it looked like there was a back and forth with the cage for some part of it, and maybe Herbert had to go there because he felt like the striking just wasn't on his side.
Yeah.
Um, and not to mention, it looks like yeah. Fares definitely has some height on him, so that reach always comes into play. Um, so it was a good showing. Leon was definitely in Herbert's corner, and it was a good showing on both their parts. It came down to the wire. It's just Zion just had the more significant strikes on him and a takedown. I definitely now see why it's so important to if a fight is so close to at least get a takedown in, because that makes so much of the difference.
Yeah.
Um, there was a fight earlier, Davy Grant versus Daniel Marcos. The only reason why Marcos won was because of that takedown.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this might be the case for Fares against Jai Herbert. Um, just getting that takedown in was the cherry on top of the cake.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that's my thoughts on the fight. What do you think, TJ?
I echo a lot of what you said. To me, it just felt like it was a super close fight. If you just looked at the stand-up game,
Mm-hmm.
both of the guys were very similar on their feet, and Herbert kept trying to make it into a wrestling slash grappling match off of the cage. He kept trying to get takedowns, but even in those takedown attempts of his, he ended up getting Uno reversed a few times by
Yep.
Ziam, right? There was one, I believe it was the final round, where Ziam hit him with a trip, and it looked like Herbert landed on his shoulder pretty bad. So I wonder how his left arm is doing right now, because takedowns are rough.
Yeah.
And especially in a situation where things are as unpredictable as in the fight game, the MMA game, I'm like, I hope his shoulder's okay. Uh, Other than that, yeah, I don't know if unanimous was the right call. I could have seen more of a split, but I think it makes sense that Zion won. But I don't know if it should have been unanimous.
Mm.
But yeah, because I feel like it could. Well, no, takedowns, right? Yeah,
Takedown.
I guess it makes sense with the takedowns, because I was thinking about, if you're thinking about just purely from the stand-up fighting, then maybe split. But if you take the takedowns into consideration, unanimous makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man. Cool if I take us into Paul Craig versus Andre Muniz.
Let's do it.
So we had Paul Craig on the one end, UK standout, Scottish, I believe. Just known for his grappling. And then we have Andre Muniz, who a Brazilian standout, same thing, known to be a grappler. Both of these dudes are black belts in jiu-jitsu. And they respect each other's grappling. So for the most part, they tried to keep it on the feet until they couldn't get it on the feet. But Paul Craig is like, oh, you want to take me down? Go ahead, bro. Let me tell you something. I do my best work from the closed guard. But I will give it to Andre Muniz in that he was doing a good job of wedging Paul Craig in such a way that his head and hips were kind of limited by the cage fence. So he couldn't really do any sweeps or submissions because if the hips are locked down and you're in a closed guard, like you need your hips in order to really do a lot of anything from closed guard, whether it be sweeping folks or submitting folks. You need those hips, and he was shutting that down, especially with the head movement too. But then round two happened. So round two, Paul Craig gets an easy takedown. He's trying to work towards submissions. At one point, it may have seemed like he was working toward oh, you know what? I'm misremembering. So in round two, this happened first. Paul Craig did get the takedown, but Muniz did something that could have worked if he just cinched it tighter. He tried to get a triangle, but there was too much of Paul Craig's shoulders in the triangle for it to be effective. So it was a super loose triangle. And what happened is Paul Craig just ended up posturing, getting up and away from Muniz's triangle attempt. And of course, with the thread in the triangle, there's always a thread in the armbar. So Craig had enough foresight to make sure he pulled his arm out of that potential armbar scenario, and then proceeded to punish Muniz from there, and eventually segued that into a TKO finish, which for a grappler like Paul Craig, that's good to have on his resume. Finished him in the second round. It was a good stoppage, I would say. What'd you think,
The
Bryce?
raining of the elbows.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
raining of the elbows was very nasty. Good on Paul Craig. Like he was not he came in there to play. Soon as Bruce Buffer was calling his name, he just went to the middle of the cage and just met Andre face to face with him. Andre definitely won that first round. He definitely won it without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, just based off of the ground game. But Paul Craig turned that around. You know what I think it came down to, honestly? Andre had like a headbutt in the second round. I think that's
Yeah.
what I think that screwed him over.
Yeah.
Because
Because they got
he lost the
reset.
position he had.
Yeah.
And like they had to reset, and that's when everything went down. Paul Craig might have got mad off that shit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, good on Mr. Craig. Good showing. And I know the fans in the arena that night loved that shit.
Yeah.
Cause I feel like this was the first on the main card, this was the first like ender. This was the first finisher.
Yeah, this was the first finish. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You want me to get into Nathaniel Wood versus Andre Philly?
Go ahead, bro.
All right. Nathaniel Wood versus Andre Philly. This was a fun one. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, yeah, Nathaniel Wood, he was gonna actually fight Lerone Murphy, but that fight got canceled. It was for UFC 286. That would have been some shit, right?
UK on UK action.
Yep. And then we got Andre Philly, who is coming off of, I want to say he's coming off of a loss. Yep. He won. He beat Bill
Algeo. Yeah.
Yep. At UFC Sanhagen versus Song. So these two are some fun fighters. Clearly, this is a featherweight fight. Going into it, the first thing that happens is Andre Philly gets what looks like to be a knockdown, but Nathaniel Wood says he just slipped. And then Nathaniel Wood later on in the round returns it right back with I want to say I don't know if it was a jab or a hook, but he drops Philly and then he just goes to town. Like he just starts just mauling him on the cage, thinking that it's over with. It wasn't. Andre Philly was talking to the ref, just holding it down.
Yeah. It was the jab, the right jab that wobbled him and the hook that dropped him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right jab and then the hook. So yeah. That was a good showing by Nathaniel Wood and Andre Philly. It kind of pretty much held down how this fight played out. Andre Philly was trying to take advantage of his reach, but Nathaniel Wood was so quick with it. It just wasn't working for Philly's favor. Like he did get he did get a knockdown in the second round. But Nathaniel Wood got it right back. They were just neck and neck. And honestly, going into the third round, it looked pretty even. Oh, actually not. I'm looking at the stats now. Nathaniel Wood had 108 out of 174 total strikes. Andre Philly had 76 out of 179.
Mm.
Yeah. And then Nathaniel Wood got the takedown. I want to say, was that the third or the second round? I want to
Think
say that. Say what?
I think third.
I might have been third. I think that was once again, like when it comes to these, a lot of these fights were even, and what it comes down to is that goddamn takedown.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nathaniel Wood got the takedown. I could see how, people said this was a unanimous decision. Yeah, Nathaniel Wood just pretty much pieced up Philly. There's no like looking at the stats. There's no other way to look at it like that. Like when the takedowns are back to back like that, you just kind of gotta go to the stats and just other things you can take advantage of. And you know, Daniel was just the power and the speed was insane. But yeah, just either way, it's a good ass fight. Definitely my favorite on the whole card. But I'm gonna pass it on to TJ. What you think?
I don't really have much to say. I'm surprised it didn't get fight of the night.
It didn't get fight of the night.
It didn't. No bonus
What
for
got
that
fight
one.
of the
But I was
night?
like, it was
Tom?
no one on the main card. Tom got a performance of the night. Oh, fight of the night was undercard prelims. Danny Roberts versus Johnny Parsons.
Yeah.
That got fight of the night, and it looked like it ended in a KO too. So I'm like, why isn't that not a performance of the night? But it's what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So I just thought it was super close. I watched it the first time and I was like, unanimous decision for sure for Wood. Then I watched it the second time. I was like, you could make the argument that it could have been more so a split decision because it was really back and forth, like really
Mhm.
back and forth. But maybe that third round subverted it all. I don't know. I don't really disagree with anything you said, man.
I get you. Like I
Yeah,
said, I think if it went to the stats, I think just going towards Nathan, it makes sense for it to be unanimous. But
yeah,
like you said, just off looking at it, it's hard to kind of piece that up.
yeah. Well, let me tell you something that's not going to be hard to piece up. McCann versus Stoliarenko.
Yeah.
so, so let me pull up some fighter data for these two, y'all. McCann, Julia Stoliarenko. So we got Molly McCann, the meatball. We're familiar with her. We covered on the podcast before. Her last outing against, I believe it was Aaron Blanchfield. She took an L by submission. We covered that on the podcast. Her last dub was against Goldie, and that was the first UK card we covered on the podcast. That also had Patty the Batty, and no, was it? Yeah, it had Patty the Batty, and I believe it also had Tom Aspinall. It might have been Aspinall versus Blades, if I recall correctly, because I think that was the one where Tom Aspinall ruptured his knee. Then we got Julia Stoliarenko, Lithuanian representative, made her octagon debut in the UFC back in August of 2020, and she is coming off an L against Chandler, where she got knocked out. So, she has something to prove in this fight. Let me tell you something. My fighter data is longer than this fight.
Damn. I
This
mean,
is
yeah.
something that Matt has suspected about Molly McCann, and that ended up being proven true against a fight versus Blanchfield, but she doesn't really have any grappling. When she's been put in grappling scenarios, the inevitable happens to where she gets submitted. We saw Blanchfield submit her, and this time we saw Julia Stoliarenko. And here's the thing too about McCann. Now, I will give her credit. She did use a more measured approach. She didn't go full on ballistic like she tried to do against Blanchfield. And once Blanchfield weathered that storm, it was pretty much the beginning of the end. And same thing here. Even though McCann was being patient, Stoliarenko ended up getting the takedown. I believe it was like an inside or outside trip off of a single leg, took her down like without wasting a breath, got to McCann's back. I thought she was going to go for a rear naked choke, but she was like, hey, I like that arm. I'm going to take that arm
Ooh.
on some Rocket Raccoon shit, right?
Yeah.
And sure enough, she fucking took that arm and took it with authority, because the way McCann's elbow hyperextended, I was like, she might be shaking that arm off now, but it is never going to be the same. Julia
Yeah,
Stoliarenko finished by armbar in the first round. And that's a pretty good win for her to have in her book, especially in not friendly
yeah,
territory. Very solid victory. What'd you think, Bryce?
yeah. I think you covered it. What I will add is, the thing about I think about fighters that kind of have that hype train over them, under them. They're
Mm.
always going to be good fights because if you beat them, you're going to get some attention on you.
Yep.
And as long as you keep that energy up, you can definitely rise up the ranks and get you some good opponents and some more money.
Oh,
Cheeto,
100%. It's
Cheeto
definitely not
beat
going to hurt the
Eminem.
bank account. Yeah.
Cheeto. Who else? Who else beat somebody and took their height? Nate Diaz. Like he
Yeah.
was always a big name, but when he beat Connor, he went to the moon.
Bigger. Yeah.
So yeah, just that's always going to be the case. And um, Molly is now on a 2 fight losing streak. So what she does next is going to be interesting. While Georgia is on a 10 shit 10 wins via submission, all armbar. She's not on a 10 streak, 10 fight winning streak though, right?
No, she took an L in her last fight,
Oh,
back in October of last year.
yep. TKO. Damn, Chelsea Chin. Yeah. But
And
hey,
Chelsea Chandler, we just saw her fight against Dumont, where fortunately she ran away at that one part. Yeah, she was the one who
yes,
she was the one who ran away during the round. Yeah.
your stock just went up. No, it did. That does not help your stock. That does
Oh,
not help your stock at all. This definitely helped. The will against McCann definitely helped. But the running shit, that was so funny. Oh, thank you for reminding me of that. I ain't never seen that in my life. He
yeah.
got
This is like, damn. I mean, I get it though.
She said,
No,
"Nope."
well, we've seen fighters like kind of run along the cage, like
They
avoiding
definitely
shots, but
do
we
run.
didn't
Yeah,
see.
they do run.
We had never seen the full on back turn, like peace out, like
The full on jet. But you
yeah,
know what though? That's why they get hit because they try to look at somebody while they running, and it's like, fam, you just gotta book it.
yeah. Oh, we got to highlight one more thing too that was kind of out of pocket. Them hitting her with the Jimmy John's freaky fast finish. Like,
They need to
what?
stop that.
Oh,
They
that's
need to
so
stop.
disrespectful. It's like,
That's so
oh
disrespectful.
man, her arm is never going to be the same. Anyway, Jimmy John's freaky fast, the freaky fast finish brought to you by Jimmy John's. Like, yo,
Hey, hey, you think that's in the contract where Jimmy Johns is like, look, if somebody get pieced up quick, you put that Jimmy Johns on. You
put
put
it
that
on there,
Jimmy
damn
Johns.
it. Yeah. Like,
I
yo.
want turkey time on the screen if somebody get taken out before 2 minutes. And I mean that shit.
Oh
Yeah,
my god. Oh. All right, bro. Take us into the main event. This won't be long either.
yeah, this
Like,
was brought to us by Jimmy John. Shit. Tom Aspinall versus Marcin Tybura. The damn entrances went longer than this fight.
yeah.
Tom Aspinall, coming back after well, I wouldn't even call it a loss, an incident in the fight against Curtis Blades. He
Yeah.
he broke his was it shin
It
or
was
what?
his knee, LCL, MCL, like just turned it
Yeah,
into dust.
yeah. And he's coming back after what the fight was July 23rd, 2002. So it's a whole year.
Yeah.
It's a year later. And of course, Marcin Tybura, coming off of a win against Blagoy Ivanov by decision. And like I said, this was quick. Aspinall looked amazing. He was so
Dude
light on his feet.
does
Just
not move like a heavyweight at all.
yeah, like he looks lighter on his feet than Cyril does to me.
Yeah.
He reminds me of Bobby Knuckles.
Low key.
Maybe I'm tweaking just on stance wise, just kind of coming in and out. But I'm sure people in the comments will tell me different. But yeah, first thing he does, throws a kick, just so y'all know just so we know that leg is good. Um, just it was beautiful. He was getting in and out, and then he caught him with a front hook, and then just pieced him up a little bit. And Marcin got to the ground, and just Tom just got on him and just put him to bed. It was a quick one for him. Yeah, it's good to see Tom Aspinall back. Um, he's definitely probably he definitely has some say in getting a title shot because what Jones is probably gonna fight Stipe, and I don't know if Curtis or Aspinall will. I don't think they're gonna run it back. So either one of them is probably gonna get the shot. I don't think Gain is gonna get the shot anytime soon. I think Gain is
Yeah.
gonna have to fight somebody else before he does that.
Yeah.
But yeah, solid win by Tom. Good to see him back. Glad his leg is good. I'm gonna pass it on to TJ.
Look, all I gotta say is 2 words: mink, mink.
I said that. I screamed that when I saw that. Mink. I
Well,
love a good mink. A
I
good
mean,
mink is oh, it's beautiful.
I mean, like we have to. Some people might argue it was an early stoppage, but don't forget that these are heavyweights, and if you're the person on top
Yeah,
hitting the person on the bottom, you got gravity on your side in addition to your own body weight, right?
yeah.
So yeah, those were not light strikes. Yeah, man. I really hope that this pathway is set for Tom Aspinall where he gets a winner of Spivak versus Gane and then gets at John Jones. But I also wouldn't be mad at seeing an Aspinall versus Pavlovich. This is what I think. This is what I think. If you can beat Pavlovich, you can beat John Jones.
Honestly, I forgot about Pavlovich. I would like to see that. I think
Um,
Pavlovich will probably wait until after John Jones and Stipe because I
because I
think they'll fight either
yeah,
or.
because I think if Aspinall can stop Pavlovich, because no one has been able to weather the Pavlovich storm. I thought Curtis Blades was close. I was wrong.
Yeah,
Um,
I think Curtis when that punch hit him that first time, he's like, oh shit.
yeah, bro. And then when Pavlovich was like, "Yeah, I can actually drop you at will," I was like, "Oh no."
But you know what? That speed that Aspinall has on his feet, that might make up for it. Because if you can't hit him, you know.
Right. And I also think too that let me see, Aspinall and Pavlovich might be similar in height. Hold on. What's it? Pavlovich. Sergey Pavlovich, how tall is he? This man was born in 1992. He's only 6'3", right? Tom Aspinall is 6'5".
Oh, he has reach too.
Yeah, I don't
Ooh.
know, bro. I think I want to see a Pavlovich versus an Aspinall, and then I'd like the winner of that to challenge for the title.
Yeah, I like that.
Because either way, I think they could be giving John Jones some problems. Then again, I thought Pavlovich was a lot taller than he actually was, though. So I'm not sure he would be able to give John Jones problems because John Jones is like what 6'4",
Don Jones is 6'4". Yeah,
and he's a lanky ass 6'4", right?
but John Jones is so like he's so well rounded that I think that's
Yeah,
why it's gonna be tough to get him a good fight at heavyweight because a lot of them ain't set like that. Like
Aspinall, bro.
Aspinall, yeah, Aspinall is, but otherwise it's not looking promising.
Yeah, yo, it was a good. I think it was a good card overall. Honestly,
Oh
it was
yeah.
super entertaining. Definitely had pay-per-view energy, especially being on foreign soil. Yeah. What do we have coming up next in the UFC?
UFC
Uh,
291.
Oh, that's next. Oh, BMF belt on the line. Poirier
Yep.
versus Gaethje too. Somebody might die.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
kind of joking and kind of not. The lengths these two are willing to go. Yeah. But who we have on that card? We got all right. Just main event. Holy shit. Okay.
it's a
Main event.
crazy ass card,
Poirier
dog.
versus Gaethje. Co-main is Blachowicz versus Pereira. Pereira's making his light heavyweight debut. Then we got a Wonder Boy versus Michelle Pereira. Two of the
Yep.
most like kickboxing as kickboxers. Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green.
Huh?
Then we got Michael Chiesa versus Kevin Holland. What the
Yep.
fuck is going
It's a
on?
crazy ass card,
What the
dude.
fuck is going on, bro?
They
Prelims, we got Derek Lewis versus Rogerio de Lima. We got Trevin Giles versus Gabriel Bonfima. I think we've seen both of these dudes, bro. We got Miguel Baeza, Jake Matthews, bro.
That's a
Everyone on
crazy
this
ass
card, I
card.
think the only one I haven't seen is like Claudio Ribeiro. But Roman Kopilov, Claudio Ribeiro, like, let's see, are the early prelims cooking too? I see Priscilla Cachoeira, Semmelsberger. I don't know CJ Vergara, Vinicius. So it might be worth tuning into the early prelims too, man. But
Oh yeah,
prelims are cooking. Main card is cooking. Like, this is
there's gonna be some shit next weekend.
all right. Well, get my money together, I guess.
Yeah,
like, fuck, man. Like, God damn. I didn't know
yeah.
it was stacked like this, homie.
I feel the same. I shit. I'm glad I get paid.
Yeah, I did. I was unaware, bro. You got Bobby Green versus Tony Ferguson. How have they not met? Oh, wait, Tony Ferguson wasn't in lightweight. But shit. All right. Anyway, y'all, before we digress too much, thank you for listening to another episode of the Now Mind You podcast. Again, this has been our combat episode, episode 75 to be exact. You can find us all on social media. You can find me on Instagram at Tuss4Skate. That's TUSS _4_SKATE. Bryce, where can they find you, man?
You can find me on Instagram, Ashe_on. That's AXE_ONCA baby. And
Mm-hmm.
if they wanted to find Matt, where they find Matt at?
Oh, Matt and his strong ass brand. They can
Yeah.
find his brand and him on social media at Matt Hambrick. That's MATTHAMBRIC. And y'all can find the podcast on social media at Now Mind You Pod on damn near everything. That's NOWMINDYOUPOD. And on your podcast distribution platforms of choice, you can just search for Now Mind You Podcast. Thank y'all so much for listening. Have a great week. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.
Peace.